Thank you, Cameron, and thank you, Arturo. It's so awesome that Kluge does these salons because it's really hard to go to events in LA and get to actually talk and meet with people and hear speakers speak and have the chance to come up to us. And so I really appreciate, the good food and everything. So when I got the email from Jeremiah and from Bud that we were going to all be together talking at this event, and the subject matter that they wanted us to basically center around was this concept of eliminating waste and how that fits into our own personal diatribes was something we all had to wrestle with. And so it wasn't too hard for me to come up with the idea of what I would want to focus on because there is something that I do really hate on in terms of when it comes to doing UX strategy. So I decided that this would be my opportunity to rant on journey maps. So, as mentioned, I have a book coming out that I've been working on for a long, long time, and I'm really excited. It's coming out by O'Reilly Media in like 2 weeks or some crazy short amount of time. And the book is about UX strategy, not to be confused with UX design. While I've been building digital products since it was called interface design and then information architecture and then UX and all these other terms, UX design, that's one thing, this idea that you're going to design a product and people tend to think of it as, well, here's the business requirements and or here's like a nice flimsy brief with pretty comps that we've sold up to the client. Go off and make your wireframes and your site maps and have a blast. And I wasn't having a blast being a wireframe monkey. I think it's pretty sad because you feel like a cog in the wheel. And as soon as I got exposed to doing the discovery phase, I decided all I wanted to do was UX strategy. I loved business strategy and product strategy, and I really wanted to figure out where they all came together. And so that was the idea of writing a book that basically taught the techniques that I've been teaching at UCLA Extension and now at USC. And I teach them in order where students start with a solution that they think or a problem they want to solve, and we work through all these techniques to ultimately devise a product. And the way the class is now taught is very different from how I taught it 3 or 4 years ago. Something happened. Something happened to my discovery phase. I used to basically go out and do the personas and do the research and do the competitive analysis and then make these gorgeous briefs to hand off to the client and then let the wireframe monkeys who took my place go ahead and build them. But then this book came out. Who was it? Eric Ries. What was it called? Lean Startup. Right. That's why we're all here centering around this topic of eliminating waste. And so I decided that the most wasteful part of the discovery phase was journey maps. This idea that we're going to go ahead and take all the really smart people in the company and jam them into a room, and we're going to play with these little pieces of paper called sticky notes, and we're all going to have some ideation and come up with some really cool ideas. And maybe it's around brand strategy or product strategy, and maybe we're going to do some design thinking. I'm going to think outside my box and get back in it, but good now. Good now. I'm thinking inside the box or in the camera. So I was like, this is bullshit, these journey maps. There has to be something more to it. And so if you're not familiar with what they look like, you can actually do a search on Google and just keyword search journey maps and see what these lovely diagrams that I'm freaking out about look like. But the issue with them is that the people with the sticky notes go into the room and then they put them in clusters up on the wall, and then they move them around until they come up with these ideas. And then somebody, typically a designer, takes a picture of them, and then she goes back to her desk and makes these amazing diagrams that people can then put up as a poster into the office building, so when the employees who are trying to figure out what the fuck they're working on are going to take a pee, they walk by the journey maps and they're like, oh, now I know. It's over there. I'm supposed to go like this or like this. And these are what we sell to our clients for sometimes 10,000 to $100,000 for these really lovely diagrams that basically have no way to be benchmarked against reality. So, let's get back to this idea of how we can eliminate waste. What could we potentially replace with this idea of the journey map? And that is to focus on the goal of product strategy, which is to get our customers down the pie hole, to get them down the funnel. Oh, I forgot to bring my funnel, but anyway, I'm sure you guys have seen a funnel. I was going to bring it up here, but I left it in my backpack. I'm holding a funnel, and we know that a concept of a funnel is, especially as chicks, like we don't want to touch them, but when we have to put oil in the car, you get the funnel and you put it in the hole, and the idea is that the oil gets into the engine and there isn't waste, because waste is churn. And if you map that back to the idea of customer acquisition, churn is when our customers don't get into the hole of our products. So instead of making these crazy journey maps, the idea is we want to figure out how to get customers down the funnel so that we can convert them, because that's ultimately what is success. And converting customers happens at different stages. And I'm not the first person to think this. Dave McClure's been out there with his pirate metrics talking about this idea of funnel and customer activation and all of these different stages of how to get customers to our website or to our apps, get them to start an account, get them to come back, continue to coming back, and either be creating content or spending money on our site, and then being our evangelist and telling people to come back to our site and being a referrer. And another great book that, of course, Jeremiah must be familiar with since he partnered with one of the writers, Brent Cooper and Patrick Valowski. They introduced this concept of a funnel matrix. And it was in here that I saw the light. And it was this idea that this funnel matrix could be the way that we could actually track our users / customers and what they're doing when they come to our products, to make sure that what they're doing and how we can continue to do the same activities over and over to bring them back and to get them through the different stages of acquisition. So we need to approach product strategy by focusing on user conversion. Not so much on the crazy touch points out in the reality and how users are going to be getting across them, but really how we're going to use all these touch points to bring them together in one place so that we could get them into our funnels and out the bottom. So instead of maps, let's talk about really ugly spreadsheets. That's what I'm about. I'm about the grid. I'm about the matrix. And so I created actually a free spreadsheet that you can download. It's part of my toolkit that comes with the book. It's at userexperiencestrategy.com. And you just go there and you fill out a little form and I'll email you the toolkit. And it comes, one of the tabs is this funnel matrix. And you can work with your teams, and in less than 4 hours, and I don't just mean the smart assholes that sit in the fancy chairs in your office, I mean the developers and the designers and the marketing people, that they all come together and work with you to start to understand the stages of customer acquisition as applied to your product, the user's process, the business tasks that need to happen, and all of these different attributes are basically the different columns across the spreadsheet that if you all work together within 4 hours, you can actually have a dashboard that you can look at in the future to say, are we achieving our goals? Are these our important metrics? Is the business fulfilling their tasks that they're supposed to do? Are the users doing what we hypothesized that they would do? And so the idea here is to stop wasting time making crazy diagrams. Life is too short, so let's cut to the chase. Thank you.